So many were last week. My class is at 3 today.
Right, exactly.
I waited all week.
Right, let me know.
Yeah, my life revolves around you.
Yeah, exactly.
That I showed you before. All right, guys. Oh, good job. All right, we are calling the 7:25 p.m. ordinance requiring entertainment licenses for indoor recreation or amusement facilities to order. We're going to start with a roll call.
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Ms. Casperson's absent. Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Winograd. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
I will be making a motion. We are continuing this hearing to November 14th at 7:15 in the Legislative Chamber to coordinate with other hearings that we have that are in the same vein of ordinance changes. So we're going to be hearing those on the same evening. So I made the motion.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. The sign-up sheet, I don't know if anybody has signed up, but. Okay. So with nobody signed up and understanding that this will be continued to November 14th at 7:15, we will close the public hearing. I'm sure that Essie can do that. Okay, we are calling the town council meeting to order, starting with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call, Ms. LeBrun?
Mr. Barnes.
Present.
Ms. Cantor.
Here.
Ms. Casperson.
Here.
Mr. Davidoff.
Here.
Mr. Dodge. Here. Ms. Hall.
Here.
Ms. Kerrigan. Mr. Winograd. And Mr. Williams.
Here.
Thank you, Ms. LeBrun. We are actually going to make Mr. Davidoff, can you make a motion to present a proclamation?
I move that we suspend the rules to present a proclamation to West Hartford's Bahai community's bicentenary.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. I don't know if there is anybody here from the Bahai. Yes? Oh, there you go. Okay. Please come on up. Can you hit my mic? Hi, didn't see you. How are you? Nice to see you too. Don't come closer. Okay, this is, we are presenting a proclamation to the Bahai community on the birth of can I say Baha'u'llah? Baha'u'llah. Okay, very good. Whereas the health and vitality of a community is reflected in the participation of its citizens in those activities that further the strength of the town. Whereas October 22nd, 2017 marks the 200th anniversary of the birth of Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Bahai faith, Bahai, is that right?
Yep.
Faith, whereas the Baha'u'llah called for the fellowship and collaboration among the followers of all religions, whereas the Baha'u'llah affirmed the equality of men and women, taught that humanity is one family, and called for the elimination of racism and racial prejudice, and whereas the Baha'u'llah declared that universal education is required for society to succeed and called for the limits on extremes of poverty and wealth. And whereas the Baha'u'llah urged the leaders of the world to abandon their nationalist rivalries and create a system of collective security, whereas the wide gap between these ideals and the state of the world calls for people of all faiths and no faith to rise above narrow partisanship and work together for human understanding and peace. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of West Hartford, I, Mayor Sherry G. Cantor, do hereby recognize and celebrate the significance of this bicentenary, urging all citizens to work for the realization of the principles of peace, justice, and human solidarity promoted by Bahai. Oh my gosh, I can't say it. Bahai. I even went to Haifa, Israel, and saw the gardens and the shrine. So it's a beautiful, beautiful, one incredible foresight 200 years ago to have things that are so important, more important today than ever. So thank you so much. Does anybody want to say a few words? Or?
No, we just hope you all are coming and joining us for our celebration.
Do you want to just say when your celebration is?
It's the 28th at 11 o'clock at the Pond House. But please RSVP by Friday.
Okay, thank you so much for being with us today, and enjoy your celebration. I will be there. Thank you so much. Okay, we'll take this too. Thank you. Make a motion. Make a motion.
I move that we suspend the rules to present a proclamation to West Hartford Town Clerk Essie Lebro.
Second. Motion's been made and seconded. All Miss LeBron. Come on down. Okay, Miss LeBro.
I've got heels
We
on,
have a
sorry.
couple. We have a couple of things for you, but whereas the health and vitality of a community is reflected in the participation of its citizens in those activities that further the strength of the town, and whereas the Connecticut Town Clerks Association recognized and named the Town Clerk of the Year at its September 2017 conference, and whereas Miss Essie S. Lebro has volunteered and dedicated much of her time and talent to the Connecticut Town Clerks Association and was nominated for this honor and selected by her peers, and whereas Miss Lebro became the town clerk in January of 2008 and is a member of several boards and committees, including Advisory Board of Legislation, Conference Committee, Nominating Committee, and Liaison Committee. And whereas Ms. Lebro participates in the annual Celebrity Breakfast, is a Justice of the Peace in West Hartford, is the Vice President of the Hartford County of Town Clerks, and serves on the Board of Directors for the New England Association of City and Town Clerks. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed that on behalf of the Town Council and the residents of West Hartford, Mayor Sherry G. Cantor, do hereby extend congratulations to Miss Essie S. Lebro on her outstanding accomplishment on being the recipient of the 2017 Town Clerk of the Year and appreciate her continued commitment to this community. Thank you so much. She deserves a round of applause.
Hi, Essie.
I wondered what you're doing.
Essie, I am here on behalf of the state of Connecticut because we really want to recognize your work. So I have a General Assembly official citation for you from me, but also from Representative Fleischman, Representative Slapp, and Representative Varengia. And this says, be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincerest congratulations to Essie Lebro in recognition of your being named the Town Clerk of the Year by the Town Clerks Association of Connecticut. Your tireless efforts in support of the Town Clerks Association, your advocacy at the legislature, and service to this community, you help people interface with their local government, and this is a well-deserved honor. So the entire membership extends its best wishes on this memorable occasion, and it's signed by the President pro tempore, Marty Looney, the Speaker of the House, Joe Arasimowicz, and the Secretary of State, Denise Merrill. So thank you. Congratulations.
And this is her plaque that she received. We pulled it out.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Recycling that. You got everything?
Yes, thank you so much.
Okay.
Now get back to work.
Take this.
I know.
Yeah, right. Okay. Number 4, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move approval of the town council minutes of the meeting on 9/26/2017.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 5 is our public forum, I can't talk tonight, public forum section of our town council. This is only for comments, so I'm just going to read, to ensure that everyone has the opportunity to be heard, that the council can efficiently administer its business. Certain rules have been traditionally followed. If you are to speak at the public forum, please state your name, address for the record. In the event you are not from West Hartford, if you are not a taxpayer or resident, just tell us and we will entertain a motion to suspend the rules. You have up to 3 minutes to speak, and you are allowed to speak on any item that is on the agenda that is not the subject of a public hearing. I have 2 people signed up, Beth Bahai, who I think was for the proclamation. For the citation. She's gone, I think. And the other person I have, a Kadzo Kangwara. Do you would like to speak to something on the agenda? Okay, thank you. Thought it was attendance sometimes. Okay, so nobody else has signed up to speak. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to something on the agenda that is not the subject of a public hearing? Okay, thank you. Number 6, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we place items 17 and 18 on the consent calendar.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that we table an ordinance requiring entertainment licenses for indoor recreation or amusement facilities until November 14th at 7 p.m. in the Legislative Chamber.
Actually, it's 7:15. 7.
11?
You said 7? It's 7:15.
7:15, I stand corrected.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 8, Mr. Davidoff.
I move to approve a resolution to appropriate $45,000 from the C.F. Morway Trust Fund for the renovation of the deck at Rockledge Golf Club.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart, would you like to talk about this?
Thank you, Mayor. Looking at item number 8 in the packet, the town, we're out to bid to renovate the deck at the Rockledge Golf Course. We've designed it and bid it already. The cost will be approximately $277,000, and we will cover that cost through funds in the capital budget, and we would also like to utilize $45,000 from the Morway Trust Fund, which was established, and the town's a beneficiary. We're allowed to utilize the proceeds for municipal recreational facilities. So we're requesting the council's authorization to do this.
Any questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 9, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to amend the fiscal year 2017-2018 Community Development Block Grant CDBG budgets by appropriating prior year unexpended grant funds.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart, could you just review this? We do this every year, so we're familiar with it, but.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. So the town is a recipient of a community development block grant from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. We're an entitlement community. And at the end of the year, participating cities and towns across the country are able to carry forward any unexpended funds into the following year. So that's what we're requesting authorization to do, to carry forward approximately $811,000 in this fund, which is utilized for a variety of important projects.
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 10, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution to modify parking rates at the Brace Road, Farmington Avenue, and Town Hall parking lots.
Motion's made and seconded. Mr. Hart.
Thank you, Mayor. And we recently reviewed this item at our Community Planning and Fiscal Services meeting. So what we're hoping to achieve here is to incentivize particularly employees working at businesses in the center to park in a couple of key areas that we've established for employee parking. We've had a long-standing program at the town's 2 parking garages, Isham and Memorial, and more recently our staff, under the leadership of Kristen Gorski, who is here to assist with any questions, we've established a new program at the privately owned Town Center Garage. And in order to incentivize folks to utilize these facilities, we think it would be appropriate to eliminate the maximum, the $7 maximum fee per day that we have available in our two surface lots, the Brace Road, three surface lots, I'm sorry, Brace Road, Farmington Avenue, and the Town Hall. So we want to remove the $7 daily cap in order to provide an incentive for folks, particularly employees, to park in these dedicated areas. And that would free up spaces for patrons of our town center businesses.
Thank you, Mr. Hart. So this came about partially, squeeze in parking, as leases, as stores leased, left, maybe a retail store left and was the new use was a restaurant that had more employees and more visitors to the center. There's been a dynamic that's actually squeezed the parking a little bit more, maybe put a little
Correct.
more pressure on the parking in the center. And so the town's been working and talking about this and thinking about this for a while on how to holistically help the businesses and the people coming to frequent the center and eat and shop to ease their ability to park in an easy way. And so Ms. Gorski, Kristen Gorski, has been incredibly helpful in organizing this and listening, and I just want to take a moment to thank her for her efforts, because it really has been she jumped right in front of this and said, we can do this, we can figure this out, and she's been great working with a lot of different people to make this happen. Wondering, how many cars do we think are going to be impacted in taking them out of the sort of the surface lots and into the...
Right. I don't know if we have those projections. Kristen, would you mind coming forward?
Good evening, Kristen Gorski, the town's economic development specialist. We don't really have any firm numbers on that, but Mayor, to your point that when we have any sort of, let's say, service provider or retailer go away and it's perhaps replaced by a restaurant, so we're talking about 5 to 10 employees being replaced by a restaurant that has about 30, 40 plus employees. And so not everybody parks in the surface lots in Town Hall, Farmington, or Brace Road. People park other places. However, we've done a couple public outreach meetings as well as additional conversations with our businesses, and many have said that a good deal of their employees do park in these surface lots. So ultimately, we're trying to transition them over to the South Main Garage to get them out in order to provide a way for patrons to park there, because we are so limited at this point.
Thank you, Ms. Gorski. Mrs. Hall.
Thank you. I just also had a question. In any of your outreach, did the discussion come up of all of the center employees that end up parking on the neighboring streets? Because we hear that a lot from our residents, that their streets are, filled up with people parking in front of their house all day, and they don't have any room for when they have their own visitors coming to see them. So I'm hoping that there's also going to be a push to get some of those people parking there as well. If you could talk about that.
Sure, absolutely. That has been brought up in many of the conversations that we've had. And ultimately, employers do understand that employees are typically looking for whatever the cheapest option is. And that, unfortunately, is the cheapest option by pushing it into the residential sections where they don't pay to park. Employers are absolutely wanting to support the town and support the residents to not have them park on the street. It's just they have difficulty in policing that.
Thank you, Mrs. Hall. And then this is something we're going to observe what happens with these parking patterns and review periodically on how we can continue to improve the parking situation in the center.
We
Right?
will.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? Ms. Winograd?
If we're past questions, ready to speak on the resolution, or do you want to end questions?
If everybody's all done with questions, we can speak on the resolution.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just wanted to speak really very briefly in support of the resolution. It was something we talked a good bit about in committee. And one thing that has been coming up frequently and was one of the top items mentioned in the survey we did that was done last year or this year, earlier this year, was encouraging retail in the center. And one thing we've heard over and over again is the need to encourage retail. And this, even though it seems counterintuitive because we're at some level raising a rate, but by taking out the cap, this will increase the churn of parking, and it's something, one of the few things we can do that will help our retail establishments. I have talked to a few of them who were supportive of this plan, hoping that it would give their customers an easier time parking near their stores. So, and thank you for the creativity of coming up with this idea.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Winograd. Anybody else? Okay, thank you, Ms. Gorski. Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you.
Hart. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 11, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of a resolution authorizing the town manager to execute documents necessary to receive funds from the State of Connecticut Department of Emergency Services and Public Protection.
Motion's been made and seconded. Mr. Hart.
Yes, Mayor. So every year we apply for an emergency management performance grant. We've historically been successful receiving a grant of approximately $32,000. We utilize that for a couple of important purposes. One, it covers roughly 20% of the fire chief's salary because he also serves as our Director of Emergency Management. And we also utilize this grant to cover 50% of the cost of our annual Everbridge notification program. So it's an important grant for us, and we're seeking council's authorization to accept this.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hart? All right, if not, all those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 12, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of the substitute resolution creating a task force to coordinate local relief efforts for Puerto Rico.
Motion's been made and seconded. I actually am going to speak on this. We had received, obviously you all know about the 3.4 million people impacted by Maria in Puerto Rico and the devastation that has happened there. There are a large number of Connecticut residents that have either come from Puerto Rico or have family in Puerto Rico. Actually, 7% of citizens in Connecticut have come from Puerto Rico. So, and the Hartford area actually is one of the higher concentrations. So we've had several requests on things that we can do to help. The governor actually also issued an order saying that if there's families that are relocating and students in the school system, that there will be some help and some assistance and direction on how to coordinate that. We're anticipating that there will be some more issues. This was going to be a very protracted recovery. It's very deep how this has affected the island, and the lack of and because their infrastructure was so fragile to begin with, it has really, really hurt. The lack of food and water, you know, I was talking to somebody recently whose family is there and waited 4 hours for a bottle of water. I mean, it was just really sad to hear. So we know that there's things that we can do. We are going to be working with, we're going to be developing a task force with 5 to 7 people from the community to help to coordinate some efforts. That's not to say that other efforts can't happen in an isolated way, but if there's a bigger effort that needs to happen, or if there's a more acute need in our community, we will be prepared to respond. So if anybody has any questions or comments? Mr. Barnes?
I do. Who should I address them to?
I guess you could address them to me or the town manager.
Excellent. Great. No, just a question about the kind of the purpose or the charge of the task force. I see in the resolution that there's going to be a report to the Human Services Committee in January of 2018. I was just wondering, you know, what are they going to be reporting about, in what form, and what's their directive?
I think their directive is to assist in local relief efforts, and that is very broad. And it could be ranging from fundraising to, language support, maybe social service support, maybe relocation support. We don't know what those needs are going to be, but there will be a connection to the town through the Human Services Committee, and it's broad. And if we find that it's not being used, task force are temporary in nature, and they are meant to end. And if you feel like it's not being used, then we will stop it. But it's at least something will be in place. We will have a group ready to go if the need arises.
And does the task force need like bylaws or anything to set out, what they're to do or how they do it?
We have done task force without bylaws, but Ms. Bono?
Yeah, I mean, a task force, by the nature of it being a bit more informal, they don't need to have formal bylaws as some of the other standing committees that you guys would typically have those. So
Okay,
if they choose to, they can, but I don't anticipate that would be necessary.
great, thanks. Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Hall?
For those listeners who are interested in volunteering, who should they contact?
They can contact. I think they should contact either Brittany Stevenson or Ms. LeBreau, and either way, we'll
So if they
get
go to the
interest.
town's website, they
Absolutely.
can, West Hartford ct.gov, they can find information for the town clerk. Great, thank you.
Terrific, thank you. Anybody else? Okay. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 13, reports from the town manager.
Thank you, Mayor. I've distributed copies of my report. I want to touch on some key items. First, under the area of council business, the current year operating budget, as we expected, the governor did veto the recent budget adopted by the General Assembly, and he's now running the state under executive order. We did receive word that over the weekend, our legislative leaders were making progress in their budget talks. We're hoping they'll convene a special session within the next week or two. In the interim, as we talked about last time, management, we've created these set-aside funds in every department for both payroll, for vacant positions, as well as non-payroll lines, with a target transfer of about 10% of budget for those non-payroll lines. And in order to access those monies, the directors would need authorization from the Director of Finance and from me. So we've taken a number of steps to really limit and control spending, in particular discretionary spending, until we know more about the status of the state budget. Moving on, the Human Services Committee, I know they haven't met in a little bit. They will be meeting this week at 8 a.m. on Thursday the 12th, and we have a pretty full agenda for that meeting. The MDC, tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, they're going to hold their second budget meeting for town officials. Mr. Privatera and I will attend. We'll share any public documents with the council and report at your next meeting. The October 24th meeting, as a reminder, I will miss that. I will be attending the annual ICMA conference. There are a number of important public hearings that you will open that night and then you'll immediately continue them to the November 14th meeting so that I can be there to participate. And I will, of course, designate an acting town manager who will attend the October 24th meeting. Before we leave council business, I was asked to issue a brief report on the recent Public Safety Committee meeting. We met on October 5th last week. One of the topics of discussion was the paramedic billing for our advanced life support service and the write-off policy in particular. And I thought we had a good discussion at the committee meeting. I would like to credit our deputy mayor for facilitating the discussion that day. And the consensus from the committee was to pursue a goal to make sure that the write-off policy would allow that the out-of-pocket costs for a resident receiving service from the town is roughly the same as what it was when AMR was providing the ALS service. So I thought that was a good meeting, and staff was directed to make revisions to the write-off policy, which we will bring to the committee at its November meeting. And I would envision that the committee will eventually make a recommendation to the council to make some adjustments. Moving forward, a couple of items under departmental reports. Absentee ballots for the municipal election are now available in the town clerk's office. I wanted to inform you all that Renee McHugh, our long-standing public relations specialist, transferring her from the community development department or office to my office. Her duties will remain roughly the same. She'll be supporting the organization overall. However, I have been working with Renee on a variety of communication tasks, and I think the move to my office would be a better fit and facilitate that. Next item, motor vehicle tax bills. At the end of last week, on the 6th, we mailed the motor vehicle tax bills based on the current statutory limitation of 32 mills. Council will recall that we had delayed mailing the bills to see if the legislature was going to modify the mill rate at all. That has not happened, and because the state budget is still uncertain, we had to mail out those bills. They are due on November 1st. Last day to pay without penalty is December 1st. And when the state does adopt a budget, and if the legislature does decide to modify the mill rate for motor vehicles, we may issue a supplemental tax bill, which we would only do in consultation with the council. And only one other item I'd like to touch on, Mayor. I know it's a lengthy report, and councilors can read it in its entirety at your leisure. Leaf bag collection, I know that's of keen interest to the community. That will begin on October 23rd. It will run through December 29th. It's a 10-week session, and residents should put their leaves in these 30-gallon biodegradable paper bags. They should not blow their leaves out into the street. They need to be bagged so that we can properly pick them up. That completes my report, Mayor. Happy to take any questions council members may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the town manager? Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. How are you? This weekend, I became aware of a local business, Blaze in Bloom, who was advertising their vintage fair for October 21st. They had their signs removed out of their front lawn. I didn't understand how the rules work in terms of signs, so I thought it might be helpful for you to review them. I'm going to give them a plug since they lost their signs for a long weekend. It's October 21st from 10 to 6. It's Artisans Food Music, and it's 45 New Park. My question is, I understand, there's yard sale signs, there's missing animal signs, there's kids consignment signs, and there's school signs, applauding school signs, and there's, of course, our political signs. I understand that they have to be 12 feet from the street in order to be within code, and I would believe that before a sign is removed from a resident, that they would have a warning, fair warning, a sign or note or something, instead of walking out the door and finding out their sign's not there. These are local residents who give so much to this community. They earn their keep by these businesses, and for someone just to pull the signs up without a sign or without a warning, I think was most unfortunate. So if you could just take a moment to talk about our procedures, I'd appreciate it.
Sure, and thank you, Councilor. And I know we had a number of emails on this topic. So there are two general sets of rules here. One is for businesses. Businesses are only allowed one sign per business unit. That needs to be 12 feet from the curb. And then signs for fundraisers, promoting events, etc. Our staff takes a broader view with those. They allow more signage. Obviously, if something is extremely cluttered, they will address that with the homeowner or with the business. But the same 12-foot rule from the curb is in place. So if our public works staff happens to notice something that is less than 12 feet from the curb line, they may remove it, and it appears as though that's what occurred here. And your suggestion about issuing a warning in advance of the removal is something we discussed today, and we'll seek to make that change.
Thank you. So what you're saying is, going forward, an individual, if they are breaking the rules, will get some type of warning before
Correct.
a sign is lifted?
Correct.
Okay. And then all the signs are kept at the DPW?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you, appreciate it.
certainly.
Thank you, Ms. Carrigan. Is there anything else for the town manager? No? All right, I was a little remiss. I wanted to, actually, with the proclamations, I wanted to start by just talking about, or just mentioning the fact that we are thinking of our neighbors, our friends in California as they fight fires at an extraordinary rate. I just saw, I got a notice from the mayor, the National Mayor Organization, and 115,000 acres right now have been consumed by fire and damaged by fire, and 15 people have been killed and 20,000 displaced. So pretty remarkable and astounding numbers. This is something that they have not seen. And I also just want to mention the Las Vegas shooting and how we are thinking of those victims, and we are thinking of the first responders who entered into those amazing circumstances to bring, to save people. And I just hope that I hope that we all have the strength to fix some of these issues, and that we come together and provide comfort and strength for all of us to be better in our country, better in our world. So, but we are thinking of those victims and the families that are going to be suffering for a very, very long time and experience life that they've never known before. So, and I will unfortunately transition to announcements, which is it's not a very good segue, but we do have, just so to take a note, the Hartford Marathon is going to be, their half marathon does come through West Hartford, so make sure that you are aware if you are on that, it's on the town website, so make sure that we see that. What? No, I'm not going to run. I may run part of it. Anyway. Bottle redemption at ShopRite to benefit the Park Road Parade. The parade has happened and it was amazing, and now the fundraising begins for the next Park Road Parade. So this is the King Street Collection for recycling. Donate your bottles and they will collect, and the proceeds will go to the 2018 parade. Party in the Park, Thursday, October 19th. The West Hartford Art League invites you to support the Art League October 19th from 6 to 8:30 at the Pond House. Live music, dancing, hors d'oeuvres, and a live and silent auction. You could buy a trip to Africa like Mr. Dodge and Miss LeBreau. The 13th Annual Celebrating Gifts of Music Benefit Concert, Saturday, October 21st, 7:30 p.m. Alexa Tarantino and Friends, showcasing tap dancer Leo Manzari, will perform as special guests at the 13th Annual Benefit Concert at the Intensive Education Academy, 840 North Main Street. Alexa and Jimmy McBride are graduates of the West Hartford Public Schools, actually both Hall High School, and are amazingly talented young people that are now making a living playing music, and they're very, very renowned in their fields. Tickets are $25, and go to www.giftsofmusic.us. For more information, contact Deb Berman at 860-424-7560. West Hartford United Methodist Church Harvest Fair, Saturday, October 21st, 9 to 2. The church is located at 1358 New Britain Avenue. And West Hartford Hauntings. This year, this October, the Noah Webster House's Spooky Theatrical Cemetery Tour returns for its 13th year. This family-friendly event takes place on Friday and Saturdays, the 20th, 21st, 27th, and 28th at Old North Cemetery. Tours leave every 15 minutes from 6 to 8:45 and run for 45 minutes. Due to some frightening content, it is suggested that participants be age 10 or over. And we lost one kid at a birthday party who ran away, so that's true. Tickets are $15 for adults and $10 for children. I know Mr. Davidoff has one, an announcement. If anyone else has announcements, feel free. Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam. I really have two. At the last Public Safety Committee meeting, it was brought to our attention that the annual open house, fire prevention open houses at our 5 stations would not be occurring this year because of budget constraints. And after that meeting, the West Hartford Firefighters Union has stepped up to the plate and has come up with a program to be held at Station Number 2 at Brace Road. It will be tomorrow evening from 5 to 9. And it will be one consolidated program, and it will have the same components as in previous years. And I would be remiss if we didn't extend a thank you to them for volunteering their time to make certain a program of this magnitude and significance continues in our fine community. I know that my children personally have gone to many of them, and I'm certain a lot of the people sitting around the table, their children as well, have gone to this. So tomorrow evening from 5 to 9, Station Number 2, Brace Road, there's a firehouse, open house for Fire Prevention Week. Second announcement that I have, Madam Mayor, is, believe it or not, I serve on the board of the West Hartford Symphony Orchestra, and they're presenting Lincoln in Booth Sunday, October 22nd at 3 p.m., and it will open its 16th season at 3 p.m. It will be a concert musical composed by the symphony's conductor, Richard Sharapa. The tickets are $20, $15 for seniors and students. Please go to www.whso.org or call 860-521-4362. So I did my job as a member of the board getting that word out. That was the small ask that they've had. But a community such as West Hartford to have its own symphony orchestra speaks volumes to our town. So if you've never been to a concert put on by our symphony, I highly encourage you to do that. And this particular production will have very interesting dialogue as well as musical selection. So I would encourage everyone to attend if they have the opportunity. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Davidoff. Is there any other announcement? Playhouse on Park? The Diary of Anne Frank actually is starting. I know the director is actually going to be staying with us, but I'm just looking at the dates. October 25th it begins, so that's after the next meeting. Okay. All right. Anything further? No? Okay. Number 15, reports from Corporation Counsel. Ms. Bono.
Good evening. Pat Allaire will be back with you at your next council meeting, but in the meantime, there's no need for an executive session. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Ms. Bonham. Anybody have any questions? No? Okay. Then we go on to appointments, and we have 2. I'm sorry? 3. I know, but we have 2, and they're making, we're going to make 2 together and 1 on a separate. So I'd like to first move to appoint James Healy to the Metropolitan District Commission for a term ending 12/31/2018, and appoint Lazara Guzman to the Pension Board for a term ending 12/31/2022, and
I would like to make a motion to appoint Denise Hall to the MDC Commission to complete the term vacated by Chris Syrick, and the term ends December 31, 2017.
okay. So we're going to have Chris, would you like to second?
Second.
Okay, so you got some Ds in there, too. All right, motions is made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. And we thank Mrs. Hall very much for her continued commitment and service to the town of West Hartford. All right, yeah. Okay. Okay, we just have a couple more items, so thank you for your patience back there. Number 19.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move adoption of the consent calendar.
Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Number 20, Mr. Davidoff.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move we received from Katie Riley, 9/25/2017, resigning from the Conservation and Environment Commission. And I know Katie personally, I'd like to thank her for her service.
Thank you. All those, motion's made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. We have no petitions. We have no need for executive session. Make a motion to adjourn. Motion's been made and seconded. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Good night.